Welcome back to the special edition of Up to Speed StarCraft, the story so far. If you have questions, make sure to ask Lauren Elise in the chat or send her a tweet at I am Lauren Elise. We're going to check in with her in just a bit. First off, character goals. We're going to list the characters. What do they want and what's at stake for them? First off, Jim Raynor. He wants to be with Sarah. He healed Sarah. He moved heaven and earth to be with her, to take care of her, to love her. And now he needs to protect her. And I want to give a brief little spoiler warning, guys. We're going to talk about the events of Flashpoint, which is the novel that takes place right before Heart of the Swarm. That is one of my personal favorite novels, almost of all time. It was so good. But if you don't want to be spoiled, I mean, it's kind of too late because the game comes out Tuesday. So we're going to talk about those pieces here. But Jim wants to protect Sarah, and he has to guard her from everyone. And he is kind of the only ally she has in her ring to defend her. He needs to continue to lead the Raynors against Makes' Dominion. And he also is going to work with the Protoss when he can. He wants to keep that allegiance together. But his main concern right now is Sarah. Sarah Kerrigan herself, she needs to regain her strength. I mean, if you could imagine having the psionic power to connect with any being that's part of the Zerg, no matter where in the universe, in the Korpulu sector, and to have that completely stripped from you, and to have a piece of you that was calling out, a piece of Sarah Kerrigan, whatever consciousness still existed, was calling out to Jim Raynor for him not to stop, to save her at the end of Wings of Liberty. And for her to now be in control, at least mostly, we still don't know what part of her is still Zerg. We don't know if this relic worked. We don't know what is happening with her. But we do know is that she is very, very weak. She has gone through a very traumatic episode.
So she's trying to find herself within the Zerg at this point as well, because towards the end of Wings of Liberty, or at the very end of Wings of Liberty, she's now kind of like this weird half Zerg. Although it's not that she wasn't weird before; she was already half Zerg, half Terran. But now she's kind of more Terran-y. She got the Zerg dreadlocks, but she's back in her ghost suit. She looks sort of normal. So again, she's just trying to find herself. The Zerg also aren't really sure what to make of her, because she's almost not the Queen of Blades anymore.
Yeah, and we're all going to take this journey with Sarah to figure out what kind of power she has. Sarah does not want to be vulnerable. That's one thing in her life she has never wanted to be, is vulnerable. And that's what took her kind of a while to warm up to Jim, is she has always had this wall because she's always been a weapon in her entire life. And with her, too, she is trying to understand and control the power that she has, maybe to gain more power, because she has one single goal, and that's #vengeance, and that's the whole theme of the viral campaign, is to get vengeance against Manx. She wants him dead for everything that he has done, and that's going to be her driving power and driving force to do what she does in Heart of the Swarm. And unfortunately, I think that vengeance is going to ultimately destroy any kind of happiness that she can have. Before we move into Arcturus Manx, I'm going to check in with Lauren real quick. Lauren, do we have any questions from chat that we can answer before we move on to the Emperor himself?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
Does the Dark Voice now control the Swarm and HOTS?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Within the visual aspects, if you look at Sarah when she's infested, she has that gold glowing eyes. Some people say that that could be a sign that the Dark Voice is controlling her. The Dark Voice... Ooh, does he still have control of the Zerg?
I personally don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe pockets, maybe, but he still needs an agent.
At the end of the day, I mean, we didn't really have any idea about this in StarCraft 1.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, StarCraft 2 was like, hey, the Dark Voice is actually controlling these people all along. So there's absolutely nothing stopping them from making, like, StarCraft 3, Dark Voice comes back, and he actually controlled everybody through StarCraft 2.
Well,
so.
it's also how you define the control. Does the control mean that he set specific parameters with the Overmind and the Zerg are carrying out those parameters? Then technically, yes. I think that the Zerg are still carrying out their function to wipe out everything in the universe, so therefore he still has control. However, the Zerg also need a leader within the Zerg infection itself, like Sarah or like the Overmind, to control them. So when they're not being controlled by a general, they just go crazy and kill everything around them. But go ahead, Sixon.
All we know at this point is that in order for the Dark Voice to not completely eradicate everything in the universe, is that Kerrigan needs to live.
Yeah, that's all we know. That's all we know.
Keep that in mind as we're going through with this.
Exactly. She needs to live. Does she need to be Zerg or human or what? We don't know. She just needs to live.
It's like the hero of a movie.
Yeah.
Like, you can't kill Iron Man and, like, the first battle.
For those,
yeah, that's very true.
For those Heroes fans, that old TV show, you know, you got to save the cheerleader, you save the world.
That's
Kerrigan
right.
is our cheerleader. There you go.
That's right. Well, she can take care of herself very well, though. Next question, Lauren. Do we have another one?
Can Dr. Hansen find a cure for the Zerg? And if so, why do they need to go collect an artifact?
This is a very good point, because Alexei Stukov, in some bonus missions, either in the Nintendo 64 version or in some other downloadable versions, was infected with the Zerg virus, but I believe Celendis and Jim Raynor actually teamed up to de-infest him by using some sort of cure or something.
I think it might have been Artanis, but yeah.
It might have. Somebody from the Protoss grouped up with Jim to heal Alexei Stukov. Now, that was one person that was infected with the Zerg, and they were able to find a way to cure him, and that was it. The Zerg virus is beyond kind of our understanding almost of what it can do. It can mutate, it can change, it can amplify, enhance any kind of race. And so that one virus probably was able to be eradicated by that one vaccine, but then the Zerg virus itself is going to change, so it can be immune.
So one person got really lucky.
One person got super lucky.
One person got out of that mess.
The Protoss know of no mass cure.
Yeah.
And so the only way to stop it is to burn it with fire.
So my last question, what happened to Stukov?
To Stukov?
99% sure he ends up dead anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the official canon lore from the game is that he is killed by
Samir
Duran.
He got shot in the face.
Yeah, he got sniped. He got taken out. And
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they either die or they're a traitor. Absolutely.
Yeah. Live long enough, play the hero long enough, die.
Okay, thank you,
That's what happens. Yeah. So Alexei Stukov, a little bit of gray area because of the Nintendo 64 stuff, but I'm going to say he's dead. He is gone. They had the funeral. You saw his casket get shipped off to space. He is dead. Any more questions?
No, I think that's going to be good for now.
All right.
I've had such a morbid year full.
You just love butterflies, and with that image, you're like, butterfly died, heads explode. That's what happens in StarCraft. It's a brutal universe.
The traitors are multiplying by the minute.
Yeah. Well, it is a fascinating universe, and that's why.
I wanted to point this out. So I'm looking at something that Brian Kindrigan said, basically implying that Stukov may actually return.
Okay.
So very interesting.
Okay, so it's a possibility he could still be alive, but we know that Phoenix is dead, and Edmund Duke is dead for sure.
Yeah, that poor guy.
We saw their bodies. Sad. Okay, let's move on to Arturas Minsk. This guy is conniving. He is so well thought out in his plans that he has a plan for everything. He still wants to get rid of Jim Raynor, but he doesn't want to kill him. He does not want to make him a martyr. He wants to kill the Queen of Blades. He wants her eradicated. One, because she's a huge threat, and two, she's evidence against him that this is what happened, that she got left behind, so it's partially his fault. He is trying to recover from the not the propaganda. He's the one that pushes the propaganda. From the truth that was exposed because of the broadcast that Matt Horner and Jim Raynor and Tychus Finley were able to execute. That was from the adjutant they found, and it's actually quotes from StarCraft 1.
Yes, that was the coolest part of StarCraft.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, aside from the protest missions, that they literally used the adjutant that we actually had back in StarCraft 1. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm. And it quotes Edmund Duke. There's a Duke. Psi emitters are online. And then Sarah Kerrigan says, who authorized the use of psi emitters? Then you hear Arturas Minx's voice. I did. And then Sarah is, no, you can't do this. And Arturas says, listen, I will rule this sector or I'll see it burn to ashes around me. This is broadcasted.
That is the dialogue from the original game.
Exactly, which I thought was beautifully done. Another artistic piece that bridges the gap between 12 years of storytelling. So kudos, Blizzard, on that. Very impactful piece of storytelling. And it also was the smoking gun to show that Arturas Minx was responsible for Tarsonis being invaded by the Zerg. So now his throne is under attack from everyone. People are protesting. But with the death of Queen of Blades, he declares himself the hero of the Korpulu sector again and tries to regain his power. I think that's what he's going to do in Heart of the Swarm. And he wants to further secure his leadership and position with more of his victories, and that's why Jim Raynor continues to be a thorn in his side. But he has another thorn in his side, but it's a fruit of his loins, and that's his son, Valerian Minsk.
Very interesting, dilemma we've got going on here. Valerian also, I guess you could put it very simply, like father, like son. Also very calculated in all of his decisions. The only problem with Valerian is that because he's kind of living in his father's shadow, he's also trying to uprise himself. Yes, I mean, he he is his father's son, so he's trying to do things to impress his father, but at the same time he's not really his father's biggest fan. So it seems like he would make a great successor just because he's trying to do everything his father did not. He's trying to better the universe. He's also trying to understand the Xel'Naga, as we mentioned earlier with Jake Ramsey. Remember, Valerian hires Jake Ramsey and his team to go on these archaeological digs, and then of course we have Jake Ramsey entering the picture in Blackstone. Very interesting stuff going on here. He's not he's different from his father in beliefs, I suppose, but at the same time, like I said, he's very calculated. So he tries to make these decisions and also tries to be 16 steps ahead of the game, like Clutch said earlier. So
I feel
very interesting.
There's a piece of passion within Valerian and a piece of love that does not exist in his father anymore. His father is so bent on controlling everything around him because of so many bad things that happen outside of his control. Valerian Manx understands that, yes, he can be a worthy successor to his father. He's going to do a better job than his father without the bloodshed. He wants to understand the Xel'Naga. He feels this is a very critical piece to the survival of the human species and also to stop the Zerg. Them from learn about them from the creators, and maybe there is some sort of switch to turn them off or to destroy them or some sort of weakness. You have to understand your enemy if you're going to be able to defeat them. He wants to make the universe a better place, I feel. And like you said, Sixen, he's this noble hero, but do the sins of the father have any place upon the sins of the son? And that's what he has to deal with. And maybe, sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. And how do you judge this person if he has to make those type of sacrifices if his father did it in a completely maniacal, evil way? Very, very, very intriguing character, I feel. And also, if you have not read Flashpoint, he is a bro. This guy is able to defend himself in any situation, and he cares about the mission. He cares about Jim Raynor. He cares about doing the right thing and getting Sarah Kerrigan the help she needs, sacrificing half of the fleet to do so. Many people that followed Valerian Manx died honorably to defend his decision and what he was doing in the universe. So he has that upon his conscience, and he wants their lives not to be in vain. So I think he's a great leader.
What you just said was very important. He's while he is very intelligent, he's also always trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So working with Raynor to heal Kerrigan rather than killing her, and then of course indirectly working with Zeratul by keeping Kerrigan alive. Very, very important here. I just wanted to harp on that. Valerian, very, very interesting character.
What's Zeratul doing now after he gives this prophecy to Jim? We don't know. He gave it to him, and he's like, "See ya, I'm out. I left the ship." He fulfilled his purpose to bring us that piece of very crucial information, but we don't know much about him after that, except he's got to stop the hybrids. That's all we really know.
I'm really hoping that he actually headed back and talked to Hierarch Artanis and Selendis and kind of also informed them of what he found out. Because again, this is very important. At the same time, the Protoss are not very happy with Kerrigan either, because Artanis's last encounter with Kerrigan was Kerrigan kind of betraying everybody again back in the Brood War days. So Artanis, Selendis, these people are not very happy with, or the rest of the new conclave. They're not very happy with Kerrigan. So I'm hoping that Zeratul talks to them as well. Maybe we're going to see what's going on with that in Heart of the Swarm again, because we're kind of seeing things from Kerrigan's viewpoint, where it seems like everybody's out to get her, but at the same time they need to keep her alive.
You bring up a very interesting piece here, and I didn't really think about it this way until now. Zeratul did not go to the Protoss once he learned of this prophecy. He went to Jim Raynor.
Right.
That's the first person he went to, because he knew the relationship that they had with Sarah, and if there's one person that would believe what he says, if there's one person that had that spark of hope inside, knowing that there was some sort of redeeming value in Sarah, it was Jim. I find that very impactful. And if he went to Artanis or Selendis, they'd be like, no, she's going to die. She's going to die.
And you know what? Not only that, but Zeratul's, not a stranger to having to, basically betray, not really betray, but have to go against the Protoss ways. Remember, because back in the day, he followed the Dark Templar rather than the High Templar. He also worked with Tassadar to kind of fight against the Conclave. Again, because Zeratul and Tassadar as well, both very, very intelligent characters. It's almost like they know what's going to happen, and they're doing things rather than for the greater good of the Protoss, although that is very directly tied to their decisions. They're also trying to keep the good of the universe in mind here.
Exactly. It's especially with Tassadar and how the Conclave was ordering to do things, and Tassadar is like, listen, I'm doing this to save our planet. I don't care about your government ignorance of what's happening right now. And that's a very, very pivotal point in any type of leader, is that they go against what popularity or what the populace is saying.
Status quo.
It's status quo, thank you. But there's a quote. It's like what's popular is not always right. What's right is not always popular. Thanks, junior high, for teaching me that one. But it reminds me of that and how true leaders really had to go against the grain sometimes to make significant changes or to save their planet, as we'll see here. Okay, this is time that we talk about Dr. Nerud. This guy, first of all, with the last name spelled backwards, is Duran with the same letters. So if they're trying to hide something, they didn't do a very good job with it.
Smell a traitor.
Lauren smells a traitor. Well, yep, he's another traitor. We'll get to that. Okay, so he's the head of the Mobius Foundation. You encounter him on trying to rescue his group, his facilities, and also to get more of the Xel'Naga artifacts. He's really, really, really intrigued with the Xel'Naga artifacts, and this is who Valerian pretty much pays to take care of the Mobius Foundation. So in Flashpoint, Arcturus is on the chase to get Kerrigan and to stop Jim Raynor after Raynor gets her back to the ship and is trying to take care of her. Valerian tells him, "Follow me. We can escape my father into this asteroid belt where I have hidden the Mobius Foundation facility." It's the facility is called Prometheus. Dr. Nerud is there. He was very, very, very intrigued by Sarah Kerrigan. He wants to study her as soon as possible. You find out that Dr. Nerud betrays them all by telling Minx where they are at and wants to kidnap Sarah Kerrigan for herself. Now, I want to play this clip here, which I find to be a bit of a hint to what is happening between Nerud and Kerrigan and what's going on from StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. It's a mission where you try to save the Mobius Foundation. Let's take a look.
I've seen through your Dr. Nerud's pathetic charade. I know what the artifacts really are. And they will be mine.
Whatever they are, Kerrigan, I sure as hell ain't letting you have them.
That Queen of Blades really is quite a nuisance, isn't she?
Quite a nuisance.
Quite a nuisance.
Quite a nuisance.
With that accent. Kerrigan says something very intriguing here, guys, at the beginning. "I see through your pathetic Dr. Nerud charade." In Flashpoint, she says when she meets Dr. Nerud, there's something wrong with him. She knows him from somewhere. She just can't pinpoint where. I think he's Duran.
All very interesting things. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we know about both Duran and Nerud. So they're both very, very interested in Kerrigan herself. Remember from Dark Origins, this is the secret mission from StarCraft that we were talking about previously. Yes. Zeratul finds Duran saying that he's working for a higher power. He's working to fuse both the Zerg and the Protoss essences together in these chambers. Very interesting things. It almost seems like Duran himself may be a Xel'Naga or maybe working for the Xel'Naga themselves. Again, he's very interested in Kerrigan, almost you could say obsessive with Kerrigan. Remember, what we know about Kerrigan is that, according to the prophecy, she must live. She is what's going to stop the Xel'Naga from returning again, because the Xel'Naga's second, rebirth are going to be these hybrid characters. So, Samir Duran's character is all about, or at least what it seems, is all about trying to bring the Xel'Naga back in this hybrid form, and also figure out how he can kind of, or what Kerrigan has to play in this. So it's a very interesting concept we got here. My theory is simply that Samir Duran is working to bring the Xel'Naga back.
I think so as well. Again, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Manipulation, knowing what the Terran are this mystery to the Xel'Naga plan. There's this third race, these humans that are not part of it. And so maybe Samir Duran is trying to infiltrate the Terrans more through Dr. Nerud and to get closer and control what's happening with the Xel'Naga artifacts. Maybe he wants to collect the artifacts for himself or see what kind of effects Kerrigan has. We don't know yet all the plans, but maybe Dr. Nerud / Samir Duran / the Dark Voice wanted to peel Sarah Kerrigan away from the Zerg so that they can control the Zerg themselves, and Sarah maybe realizes that she needs to go back into the Zerg 100% in order to control it. We don't know yet. There's a lot of possibilities, but this Dr. Nerud guy is not who he says he is. He did betray Jim and Sarah and Valerian, And we're going to go through a couple more characters here and then talk about pretty much the crucial event of Flashpoint that's going to push right into Heart of the Swarm. Let's talk about Matt Horner real quick. This is the ultimate Boy Scout, wants to do the right thing. He follows Jim's orders. He wants to stop the Dominion. He is a great ally to have. It's also a funny side story with him and Mira Han, how they're technically married because he won a card game. But she, because of her love for Matt, she does help him out in Flashpoint and is able to hide them for a bit in Dead Man's Port, which is this kind of graveyard of ships. Anyways, so Matt's a good guy. He's not going to betray anybody. So there's a guy that's not going to be a traitor, Lauren. Matt Horner. Nova, she still works for the Dominion. She wants to kill Kerrigan. That picture is actually up on a huge wall in the Blizzard office. It's gigantic.
I wonder why.
Yeah. I think they cut it off.
What?
I think they cut it off in the mid section.
I don't think they did. If it is real big.
This was actually StarCraft Ghost concept art from 2005.
Yeah.
They actually made this, and I've got it somewhere up in my wall somewhere. But they actually made these pretty cool key arts, special edition, only like 150 of them or some odd made. Very, very interesting. I mean, I don't know. I'm personally glad to see that. Plus, it's an awesome picture.
It is an awesome picture. The suits have to be skin tight because they cloak with them. That's
Of
why.
course.
Oh yes.
Of course. It does not surprise me that Blizzard
No, there's science.
strategically made it a tight suit.
There's science behind it.
Yes.
All right. So Nova's still alive. She's going to be trying to kill Kerrigan. She still works for the Dominion, and she is a powerful ghost. Tosh, we've been told, is not going to be in this game, unfortunately. I found him to be a piece of the puzzle of when weapons go wrong and how they can turn against people. Backstory between him and Nova, they actually had a little bit of a thing in the Ghost Academy together.
Oh.
So it's kind of a betrayed lovers sort of
Had
thing.
to have been
Scandalous.
that tight suit.
Yeah.
Had to be.
And maybe he got sick of the tight suits, so that's why he left. He wanted to become a Spectre. Anyways, unfortunately, what we've been told, he's not going to be in the game. We're going to find out here in a couple days, though, if that's true.
I did want to add to this. Remember back in the Wings of Liberty decisions, Nova's not particularly happy with us because of us choosing Tosh, so that's definitely going to play a part in Heart of the Swarm coming up.
Yeah, it will play a part indeed, man. I hope it's more than just dialogue differences, but we shall see.
Yeah.
The Dark Voice, he's going to show up. I pretty much guarantee it because he's controlling the hybrids, those crazy-looking demonic things that chase you and you can't even kill. So I'm sure there's going to be more of him involved. Other characters I'd love to see more. Michael Liberty and, of course, Jake Ramsey. We talked about them. Michael Liberty could definitely play more of a part in helping to get the information out there about the exploits of Arcturus Manx. He was there. He was there and listened into the conversations. He was on the ship with Jim and Sarah before the mission on Tarsonis, and he saw what had happened to her. So he's another person that knows the truth and is using the truth as a weapon to stop the Dominion. Now, are there any other characters, Sixon, that we would like to see before we go to a commercial break and talk about what's at stake here and wrap up everything about Heart of the Swarm?
Honestly, I would. We already said this, but Jake Ramsey, by far one of the coolest characters in StarCraft lore. I mean, he's essentially the Sarah Kerrigan, but Protoss infested instead, right? Because again, he's a Terran with this Protoss in his head. It's such a cool dynamic. I'm really hoping he plays a big part because he, alongside Jim Raynor, could potentially really help facilitate that Protoss Terran dynamic again.
Mm-hmm. All right, ladies and gents, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We come back. What's at stake for all the races as we move in to Heart of the Swarm? Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.